talk about blood composition. Okay, so we always wonder about what's in the blood, and the most important thing is to actually study what's going on. All right, so there's ways of actually understanding what is the composition of blood. So the way we do it is this process called blood fractionation. Here, what happens is you grab an intravenous sample of blood. Okay, so you have a little test tube here. All right, you insert this test tube that's filled with blood, okay, into this device called the centrifuge. The centrifuge's main function is to generate this centripetal force that pushes everything downwards, separating these different components in terms of density. Okay, so here, when I have this new layer after, for example, 5 minutes of centrifugation, you have a nice little gradient of the different layers of the blood. So here you have like a little layer here. So here you have one layer here. You have one layer here at the bottom. And then you also have another tiny little thin layer here. And what are these layers? Okay. So each layer has its own specific types of proteins and cell types. Okay. So the least dense here at the top, okay, we call this the plasma layer. So here, if I would actually tell you what's in the actual plasma layer, all right, majority of plasma is water. Okay, so you have your water, you have proteins, carbohydrates, fats, your hormones, everything, right? Majority of all of the plasma is non-living. Okay, so water, carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Okay, also, what's really important about the plasma layer is 3 specific proteins that I want you to know. Okay, the first is albumin, the most abundant protein in our body. Main function is the regulation of osmotic pressure. Okay, so pressure, this pi sign is the symbolism for osmosis. Okay, so what does this mean? What is this function of albumin as osmotic pressure? So when we look at the blood, there's 2 types of pressure that is being transferred through these blood vessels. Okay, so there's this hydrostatic pressure on the inside, okay, that pushes all the blood, called hydrostatic pressure, that pushes all the blood outwards, like that. Okay? So here, the function of albumin molecules is, if you see there's little protein molecules here, their main function is to generate a little osmotic force downwards in order to maintain this homeostatic blood flow. Okay? So for example, if there was no albumin, so if we look at the other side, the bottom side here that I have for you, what would happen? Well, because there is no osmotic pressure, there is a homeostatic imbalance of blood flow. So now you have all this blood leaving these blood vessels, and this can lead to a process called hemorrhage. Okay? So albumin's main function I want you to focus on right now is maintenance of osmotic pressure. Also, it is responsible for helping for the transport of fatty acids. So it helps also transport fatty acid, which is also another metabolic component that helps for the generation of metabolism. Okay, number 2, globulin proteins. Okay, so globulin proteins, you've heard this before, you've heard the word globulin. So globulin proteins are specific proteins that are named this globular because of their actual shape. They have this roundish form of shape. And examples of globular protein is hemoglobin, a protein responsible for the transfer of oxygen, binding to oxygen, and also immunoglobulin. So if you know, what is immunoglobulin? Do you remember? This is another way of writing antibodies that is secreted from your immune system. All right, and the third final thing that I want you to worry about is fibrinogens. These are responsible for the process of coagulation. What does coagulation mean? Coagulation means from the phase of going from a liquid to a solid. So where would that be relative? Blood clotting. Okay, so the fibrinogens are responsible for clotting. All right, so all of these plasma components are listed here: water, carbohydrates, fats, proteins, etc. And then of the proteins that I want you to really focus on is albumin, globulins, and fibrinogens. All right, so that was the plasma layer. That was the plasma layer. All right, now we're going to look at this other layer here at the bottom. This is called the formed element. All right, so here in the formed element section, formed element section, you have two specific layers. Okay, the first layer, this is called the Buffy coat. The Buffy coat layers composes majority of our white blood cells, which are, what was the function from before? Protection, and platelets. All right, platelets for what function? Coagulation, right? So in our Buffy coat region right here, so this top region right here, this is called the Buffy coat. The bottom region right here, this is called the erythrocyte region. Erythrocytes. What are erythrocytes? Erythrocytes are another name for our red blood cells. And the function of red blood cells is to carry oxygen to the respective cell that are in need of oxygen for metabolic generation of certain components, for example, ATP, adenosine triphosphate.